Vikas Mittal. He has been the managing director for Nova Formworks since 1999. He holds expertise in operation management, sales, product development, marketing strategy, and Formworks manufacturing plastic formworks with GI supported stiffeners. Today, Mr. Vikas will discuss maintaining sustainability, profitability in formwork business. Delegates, let's welcome Mr. Vikas.
So as of today's topic, sustainability, profitability, and sustainability. So in the formwork industry, talking about sustainability in the formwork industry. First of all, what is sustainability? In general, sustainability is concerned with protecting the planet and promoting social development without endangering life on Earth or leaving anyone behind. So the entire concept of sustainability would basically be where we don't endanger the planet itself. In means to just get our purpose solved during our lifetime. So this concept seeks to cover our present needs without compromising resources for future generations. Generally, what happens is to fulfill our needs, we are at the end of the day compromising on the resources which is there, the natural resources, and we're just depleting them without thinking twice. Of lately, still, I think a lot of awareness on sustainability has been coming up in the world. So I think we would, if we act now, we could actually somewhere, show a little face to our future generations. So sustainability in formwork, if we talk about, I would categorize sustainability being one thing is on the environmental front. So on the environmental front, the three aspects what I look at is recycle and renew, reuse, and the third thing would be reduce carbon emission. So when we say recycle, if you're using a product as a formwork, I would look at it as sustainable only when it is recyclable and which can be renewed. So if we talk about formwork, first of all, I would like to just put across that majorly there are four kinds of formwork which is generally being used in the market. Conventionals, the mainly used products are wood as well as steel. These are the two main products which have been being used from years together. And wood being the you can say the starting of formwork was with wood, and then steel came over, and after that then we have aluminium and plastic. So these are mostly, and we have different ranges of steel. In steel also we may have different ranges of steel, but these are the four main preliminary categories of formwork. So if you look at each and every aspect of on these fronts, and if I compare the four formworks, say which is recyclable. So wood, if we talk about recyclability, is pretty scarce because it can be recycled to paper. But again, when we talk about the formwork industry per se, during construction and stuff, it is not being recycled. Generally, half of it goes into landfills, and a lot of it is burned during winters. So that way, wood has this thing. Steel, yes, it can be recycled. Aluminium can be recycled, and plastic 100% can be renewed. But if we talk about reuse in terms of environmental front, in terms of once you're recycling these products, the same when we recycle it, are we able to make the same product in the minimum number in the minimum time or in the minimum number of processes? If I look at that aspect of it, if we talk about steel, yes, it can be recycled and it can be reused. But again, when you say if it is a steel plate which is being used as a formwork, if that goes after it is damaged, or after it is if it is put to recycling, it would definitely take a number of processes to again get back to that particular shape. So that would be at least going through the entire process of melting and then getting into a sheet form, and then that sheet is being welded with other profiles, and then it becomes into a formwork. The same thing with aluminium again. That's what happens. So after aluminium is being scrapped out, it goes into the foundry. It again melts across. It becomes a billet, and then that billet you use the billet to make a profile. Those profiles are then got to the factory where you again weld them and make weld them, cut them, and make their desired formwork. Comparatively with plastic, the advantage is that after the formwork is being recycled, it can directly be made into a plastic product again, either being formwork or any other product for that matter. So the minimum number of processes take place, so it reduces a lot of electric requirement for the same. And even in wood, that is the same process. Even in case if it is being recycled, then that wood has to go into making pulp and other stuff, and then when you make paper out of it, and then that could be recycled to paper itself, and so that's how it is. It can't be reused in the same form. And on the environmental front, on sustainability, on reducing carbon emission, so what are the products which can reduce carbon emission? Now, if you talk about steel, the energy consumption is about, I think, roughly about 1.9 ton, for producing 1 ton of steel, you nearly emit about 1.9 tons of carbon. And for aluminium, it is somewhere around 17 tons. 15 to 17 tons of carbon is emitted to produce 1 ton of aluminium. Whereas in plastic, it ranges between 1.7 to 2.5 tons of, because plastic, there is a huge variety of plastics. So in plastics, generally it is between 1.7 tons to 2.5 tons of carbon is emitted to produce 1 ton of plastic. So going to the next part of it, I think sustainability would actually be sustainable only when it is economical or profitable. Because at the end of the day, if anything which is not economical or profitable would not be sustainable in itself, because people would not want it to say they would have a reservation in making that main product. So in Formwork again, when we talk about how can it be profitable, so basically to make anything profitable in terms of the sales, on the sustainable fundamentals, resource consumption, I would say. So what are the kind of resources being used, in terms of using that particular product? So if we talk about resources in construction, again, within category with Formwork, the resources what you would be employing would be labor, time, money. I think these are the main three, and material. Yes, so these are the four main resources what you would be employing in terms of making in construction of the building by using the formwork. So in that, which of these formworks would be more resource, which would be the least, which would consume the least number of resources? So when we talk about plywood again, wood would be again. Firstly, you need to remake the wood according to your sizes of the formwork. So you would be spending a lot of time on that firstly, even before you use it. So then you need to, while you're using it, you're also adding on to the component of labor, because you're making the panels or making that thing at site. So you're using a lot of labor as well. Secondly, when you're using the formwork during this whole process, the wood labor again is extra, because there you need skilled labor again, and because they need to match the proper efficiency to get a proper finish and the proper efficiency at site. You need to actually spend a lot of labor in terms of, and in terms of cost of the thing. Yes, initial cost of wood may be cheaper, right? I think that is the cheapest form of formwork in terms of the initial cost, but the lifespan of wood is very, very low. So automatically, you are actually spending more than what you're actually seeing. And then the consumption of material again would be much higher in terms of wood, because if for any particular size, you need to cut the particular panel to that size, and then after you cannot again increase the size by just adding on any other thing. Yeah, and the same thing goes with steel. Steel being heavy, you use a lot of labor because comparatively the efficiency goes down of labor. So the resources of labor is actually up. And because it is heavy, even the assembling and de-shuttering takes a lot of time and energy. So there again, you're using a lot of cost-wise. Again, it is not that cheap. And because of the number of locations you have about 30 to 40. And the material used in terms of resources, yes, to make a steel formwork initially, as I told you, that you use about, first the sheet is made and you make the formwork. So the number of processes involved, it uses a lot of electricity as well as natural resources. And because it is also heavy in terms of, if I compare it with plastic, the steel would be at least 2.5 times to 3 times heavier than. If we compare the carbon emission in those two, then it would be 3 times of steel. And steel is similar to aluminum is similar. And then the reusability of lifespan, yes. Again, in this way, I think what I can do is I have a sheet of where the differences are there. I'll go to that. I'll just explain it on. In the reusability, it would be the lifespan of formwork. Most of the formwork have their own lifespan. So according to that, we can judge on which is sustainable and which is not. The quality of the product per se, as well as the quality of the you can say the quality of the construction which is achieved after using that particular formwork. That would also derive on your, would depend on how profitable the particular and whether the particular formwork adheres to your specifications or the need at the particulars. In the social front of being sustainable, so I would put it as reliability. Reliability would be the key factor what we can look at, and the fundamentals to derive at socially would be whether it is safe. Is the formwork safe to use? Whether the particular product is easy to use, so that least resources are spent on terms of labor and stuff. So, and more than that, the efficiency of the labor is maintained. They don't do too much of an hard work to use the particular, which is unnecessary use of energy. End result of the quality of the structure, which we already discussed on point two. But here, in terms of the social point, yes, the look of the product, the look of the structure, the quality of the structure, strength of the structure, and the lifespan of the structure as well. Those things would again give a lot of play on the sustainability. And how much waste does the entire thing produce at the end of the day after using the entire formwork or after the construction of the building? At the end, how much waste do you produce, and whether that waste is any value or so? As we see differences which occurs, I would. As we talk about recyclable, I put all the parameters on the left side where you can see that when you talk about recyclability in plywood, we just recycle about 20 to 30% of the wood comparatively, which is used in formwork industry. I'm talking about the plywood itself. Maybe the timbers are still being used for a longer time, but comparatively, if you talk about plywood, generally because most of it actually goes into landfills and or it goes into people in winters generally burn a lot of even other than winters, the labor actually are the scrapped plywood which is at site, people generally burn it across and even create pollution. So if you talk about steel, yes, the entire thing can be recycled, aluminum can be recycled, plastic can be recycled as a whether the same this line we've already discussed, the reusability of this recycled material into the same form. If it can be produced in the same form immediately in the minimum number of processes, I think it's only plastic which can be, which is very easy to recycle and very very less energy is actually consumed to recycle the entire plastic. Reduce, when you talk about reducing the carbon emission. Here in plywood, definitely carbon emission is not there because trees are a very good source where they actually consume carbon. But the only thing where it reduces is because the plywood or the wood, when you use it as a formwork, the number of repetitions are pretty less. So because of that, a lot of trees are cut for just making some quantity of formwork. So that way, cutting of trees and the entire cycle time for planting so many more trees, and by the time those trees actually start giving the results of consuming carbon as the already existing trees would give. So that is a loss here. Other than that, in steel, as I told you, since the weight of steel to other formworks is nearly 3 times, so in that context, the carbon emission would be about around 6 tons compared to say 1.7 in plastic. Aluminium, as already conveyed, it is 12 to 17 tons of carbon emission per ton of aluminium produced. But this is again the aluminium produced at as an ingot initially what aluminium is. But then again you need to reduce it to profiles, and then those profiles have to again be produced. So actually this particular carbon emission thing would go up much higher. Resources, as we already discussed, high, medium to less in terms of at site. But yes, if you talk about resources of natural resources used, aluminum again, that is also pretty high of the use of resources. In plastic, it's pretty less at site as well. And in the natural resources, yes, petroleum is being used there. Reusability in plywood, generally we get about 4 to 7 repetitions is what you get at site. So automatically the lifespan of plywood is about 4 to 7 or 8 times is what maximum. And with every repetition, also the quality of the construction goes down because steel. Generally, people are using at about 30 to 40 times, but again, in that also you really need to kind of keep cleaning it and finishing it with some additional work like welding and tinkering. Aluminum and plastic, you generally have more than 100 plus repetitions, so then reusability is pretty high. In the quality of the surface finish or the quality of the construction which is achieved, initially, yes, up to 4 repetitions or so in plywood, you have a very good finish what you can get. But that is again subjective to the people, the shuttering labor which is involved, how technically sound they are, how skilled they are, basically. And that it will depend on the finish what is it. Steel is comparatively, you can say the finish is comparatively average to all the other materials. And at times, if not cleaned properly and stuff, you may not get a very good. Aluminium, the finish definitely comes out pretty well, and in plastic as well, it comes out very well. In aluminium also, there may be some issues in case if there is if the panels are dented during the shifting of material. Specification as to particular sites it can be met by plywood by making it comparatively heavier in terms of in plywood you can add on a lot of bits of other timbers and stuff and make it heavy and you can still get to this. Steel again is the same thing. It's heavier, so you can meet this. But meet the specifications in aluminium, you have comparatively a better. You can achieve at these specifications on a lighter. And in plastic, definitely these specifications can be achieved according to the requirement of safety. If the expertise is good in wood, then yes, it would be safe. In steel, because it is heavy, there are instances at site where it turns out to be little unsafe in case if not handled properly. Aluminium, again, yes, it is safer compared to steel, but yes, that is also a little heavy. Plastic is safer because comparatively it's a softer material and it's lighter as well. So the damage concern would be very very minimal compared to all the other. The ease of use in all these kinds of formwork. In plywood, definitely there's no ease because it's not a systemic formwork. Labor is the main component. If you have good labor, you can get a good result of it. If the labor is not skilled or stuff, then using it becomes a little. In steel, again, it's not very easy to use because of especially because of two things. One is the weight is really heavy. Secondly, because the material is comparatively, the surface tension is pretty high in steel, so it attracts concrete very strongly, and because of that, regular cleaning and maintenance of the formwork is more. Aluminium, yes, it's easy to use because it's comparatively lighter in terms of steel or plywood, and it's easier to use because it is again made as per requirements, and the locking system is pretty easy. And similarly, plastic, it is even easier than all the other three because the main advantage being that even the locks which are used here are of plastic. So plastic has a very, very low surface tension. So because of that, it does not it does not stick to concrete as such. So cleaning is very, very easy. Being lightweight, it's very easy to handle. So the labor is also efficient while handling it. And overall, so if you look at all the parameters, it is the most, the ease of use is the best you achieve. Quality of the formwork, if you talk about, which you get, and the structure as well. Plywood would be 70%, steel would be 50 to 70%, aluminium would be 90 to 95%, and here the 5 to 10% what aluminium loses out on is only on one thing, that is basically the denting, and the second thing is the leakages at times because of the foams are all welded and done. It's all a man-made panel, so automatically there are mistakes which are at site, and because of that, leakages at site are Whereas plastic, it's an entirely machine-made product, and it's a every panel is as per size, and there are regular panels, and it's modular. And because of the locking system, because of the patent locking system, what Nova has, don't, there is no leakages involved, so you get a 100%. And reducing waste, yes, as said, plywood, definitely you have a lot of wastages at site. Steel, also comparatively, the it reduces in the wastage because again it's recyclable. And similar with aluminium, and yes, plastic, it is the entire thing is 100% recyclable. The wastage is parts. I would like to sum it up by saying that when a business has a sustainable profitability level, it means that it offers an effective service or product that is profitable as well as environmentally friendly. So, and to just give you a glimpse of the formwork of plastic, which is the most sustainable, reliable, and profitable right now, if I, in comparison with all the other kinds of formwork available. This is the graph of that, and this is the finish what you get at site. So the same same side. And here it's a very here this is rammed earth walls, which is again a very sustainable and environment friendly structure where concrete is not used, and it is all these sand or the mud at that particular site itself is used to make the walls and columns out here and the entire structure. This was done at Leh, and these are our formworks, which have been plastic formwork, which has been used for the ramming of, and this has been done by none other than Sonam Wangchuk. If you've heard of Sonam Wangchuk, who is the scientist and on whom in Three Idiots, the Amir Khan played a similar role. So we've given it to them, and they've used it for in Leh and Ladakh. They've been building it. They built eco resorts. They've built army housing with our formwork, and right now they're also building there is another building out there where again it is with rammed earth walls. Sustainable. These are some low cost housing. I would like to just sum it up that choosing the right formwork would definitely take your construction ahead in terms of at least being more visible to nature and saving on water resources. Thank you.